Hello, everyone, and welcome to Risen Esports Unstoppable League Week 4, where we have White Lotus versus TFF 5G. I'm Lowacki, and I'm joined by Big Stevie there on the right side. And Stevie, how are you doing this afternoon, and are you ready for game?
Yeah, we're doing good. I've got some heated Division B action here in the Unstoppable League for Season 14 fall. You got a pretty hot performing team, White Lotus, up against TFF 5G, who are really just looking for their first win of the season here. And in Week 4, that's a long time to go without a win in a round robin like this. So TFF 5G are certainly going to be looking to flip the script going into Game 1 here.
Yes, indeed. And with that, I believe we should be readying up for draft relatively soon. And then I'm glad you actually have all the numbers and specs pulled up because I never do. I'm so glad you're prepared, Stevie. And it looks like draft will be starting in the next couple of seconds. And just as I'm saying it, it is indeed starting with WL starting us off for the blue team here. And we will see who they go for this first pick here.
Yeah, just a quick update. It is actually TFF who are the blue side in this game. Important thing to call out here for White Lotus, who are the red side in this round one. They are coming in here as the 4 seed. They've got that 2-1 record, only losing game to BBB. They are down 2 of their starting roster. We have Poppy Fox, who is out. They are being replaced by Zerathorn, who was part of that Week 1 victory over OGRH. Similarly, the 80 carry disgrace is gone. Daz just registered on Thursday, is substituting in. So that should be changing up a little bit of how they draft. But the first thing I'm not surprised at all by is the Xin Zhao ban for White Lotus. Sweevel used it and piloted in basically the best game this team has played so far, which was their Week 1 single game victory over top team BBB.
Okay. So it looks like they are going for target bans is what I assume is happening, mainly due to, was that the top laner or the mid laner, if you don't mind me asking?
For who, Sweevel?
Yes, Weevil.
Sweevel is the jungler.
Okay, never mind. I
Yeah,
not doing
either way,
fantastic right
so
now.
So, I mean, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is Fearless Draft. It's not like the absolute wild balls to the wall Fearless Draft that you're going to see in Draft League, where it's once you pick something, it's gone from the entire game. This is like cool, chill, first year professor kind of Fearless Draft. Once you pick it, it is gone from your side. So here, especially with TFF 5G hovering the Jinx, if they were to pick this, Jinx would be ineligible for them to pick for the remainder of the series today, although it would be able for White Lotus would be able to pick that up potentially in Game 2 or Game 3. So Jinx locked in as that first pick, and I don't know, it's been one of those picks that we've seen so much. Jinx actually the most picked champion alongside Leona here in the Unstoppable League so far this season.
And with that, they are also hovering the Skarner here, which I do believe is also a relatively common pick I have been seeing all across the board. And with that, they do secure it, and they are hovering the Hui as well, and do secure that one as well. With that, I'm really curious how WL is going to go ahead and pick up the rest of their characters here. I assume they're probably going to be hitting up with a support, maybe third, second pick, and then going from there. But
Yeah,
really,
TFF 5G actually have a pretty bad habit of picking up their mid laner in the first 3 picks. I'm curious if that's what they're going to be doing, especially seeing the Hui, though I would point out Hui is actually the most played champion for Daz, who just came in and allegedly is substituting in as the 80 carry. So we might be in a bit of a post-marksman world for the White Lotus faithful here. Curious to see whether they're going to call their bluff on that one and maybe go something really aggressive from the bot side, the Leon or the Nautilus, something that's really going to be able to lock down a pretty squishy champion.
I do believe that is more than likely what we are going to see, except they're hovering the Milio, which is a little bit
Okay.
outside of the range that I was expecting. So perhaps they didn't exactly know that the Huey is actually the bot lane. They may have just automatically assumed that it is the standard mid lane pick. And keep in mind, it still most certainly can be. It just really depends on the situation. But I'm glad you looked up the numbers because it seems the numbers will be pointing in that direction.
Yeah, the Melio, it's a pretty standard pick here. We're seeing it a lot out of supports nowadays. Rakan's not something I've seen too much in this league. The meta's certainly been shifting a lot more towards those Enchanter supports. You're seeing a lot of the Melio, a lot of the Nami, a lot of the just support-based champions, or you're finding hard engage, the Rels, the Leona, the Nautilus. Rakan kind of fits somewhere in the middle there. A lot of people think that Rakan is primary engage. He's more so that follow-up champion that wants to basically combo with another champion's engage. Will definitely lend itself a little bit of an air of aggressiveness in the bot side. Hui, Rakan, I don't see that being a lane that's going to cause too many problems to a Jinx Melio, so I'm curious if that's what WL are opting in for. But certainly, White Lotus are giving themselves a lot of flexibility heading into the back end of this draft. And I don't think, unless, of course, the Hui and the Skarner move, I don't think we've yet to see any solo laners here. Actually, that's a lie. I'm going to say Freshburger, that's probably his top lane Skarner.
Really? That is a very interesting pull from this, and we are also seeing a couple of are we seeing one top lane ban of the Mordekaiser coming out from WL here, and then additionally we have a Galio and a Yasuo ban. So they are specifically targeting this mid lane, which leads me to assume they could not. I mean, they could be having the Hui mid and just really don't want those characters to go against the Hui, but only time will fully tell in this case.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of Galio Wombo comps, which I think is something we haven't seen in very recent times outside of this league. Things like the Camille Galio, things like the Nautilus Galio, the Renata Galio, all things that just want to sit on your opposition have been popular. Vayne, that's an interesting choice, especially okay, that makes more sense. I was
That
gonna
makes
say
a
the
lot
Vayne would
more
be
sense,
really,
yes.
really cool. And I guess the idea is that you outscale the Jinx in the 1v1, and Milio Jinx isn't really a lane you have to worry about. Xayah Rakan, it's the classic lover's bot lane. It's giving Rakan that little bit of extra engage, and actually frees up a lot of your team to play around your other carry, because Xayah has that self-peel, self-help ability. So curious to see if that's where they're going to be taking that. Orianna for TFF 5G. Okay, I could see it, but I have got to say I better see a hard engaged champion on that fifth pick for TFF. Otherwise, I don't know how they pick a fight.
Yes, I most certainly agree with you there. Just the main question is how they want to play this. And a Tom Kench, I believe, is a beautiful addition, in my opinion. I love the catfish. So I can tell by your face you're not liking it too much. May you run me through that?
How how do they pick what how do they pick a fight? So they have an interesting kind of kite back composition. Tom Kench plus Melio is going to make for the safest Jinx in the history of mankind. Aside from that, though, how do you force your will? If TFF ever find the advantage, ever find the lead, they don't really have any tools to press that forward outside of just kind of expecting White Lotus to cha-cha slide directly into their team, which at this level of play, I mean, this is unstoppable. This is really where teams start to get a good, cohesive grasp on how do we play the macro game. And I think White Lotus, with their last pick, have almost called this bluff immediately. They've said, hey, you do not have a composition that can challenge us at any point in the game. You can't engage into us. You don't really have the wave clear to siege us. We're going to pick Nasus, and we'll see you at 40 minutes. And I think it's 100% the right pick here.
Yes, indeed. I mean, firstly, Nasus is just all around a very good scaler. You always want to play around that. And when the enemy team just can't get fights off into you to the rest of your team, even if your Nasus is incredibly far behind, he still scales infinitely and will be able to one-shot you at the 40 minutes, no matter who you are.
Yeah, I'm curious as to the matchup of Kench versus what Kench versus Nasus looks like early. I assume, as Tom Kench is probably one of the strongest solo laners you can have up in that top lane. It's probably going to be TK focused in the early game, but it's going to need a little bit of assistance, I think, to really put that Nasus so far down where it just doesn't matter anymore. I'm confirming this as we speak. Yeah, it's TK sided pretty early and actually is a pretty solid lead. But I kind of want to take the second to step back. Let's look at these two teams as a whole. We didn't really have a lot of time at the start of the show to do that as we got into draft almost immediately. But these are two very different teams in two very different places. And I'm talking like players and organization wise, not necessarily these five players versus those five players, and these five champions versus those five champions. White Lotus are a team that's been fairly coordinated this season. They have two 2-0 match results so far. In week one, they had a strong showing versus OGRH, and versus UHE in week three, they found another 2-0 win, only actually losing a series to top team Triple B right now. And I also want to point out, In that match they had versus UHE, that first game that of the 2-0 series was not only a win, it was a perfect win. As in no deaths, no objectives, no neutrals, nothing given over. So this is a White Lotus team that even though they have two of their non-starter members on the field today, this is a team that can play pretty high level macro. Um, and with that, I really wanted to see TFF set themselves up for success with a comp that, they can kind of do anything. And sure, I'm not going to say the game's over in drafting phase, but they are going to have to overperform this laning phase, I think, if they want a chance to control this one.
Yes, indeed. And I will state it most certainly can be a long con to where you're sort of playing your not greatest champions off the start, but I'm not exactly sure how far into that they are thinking on it because you can most certainly just, with the way this is set up, use your not greatest champions up front, let the enemies play their best, and then you double down when you have your number one tier picks and then go from there. You still obviously want to win the first game because getting behind on first game definitely does wonders to hurting your morale, and it's just not good at all, especially if it ends up becoming a loss for a perfect game for the other team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm ready to say this is perfect game territory. Of course, maybe 5 minutes in, I'm gonna change that assertion. But
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, this is a White Lotus team who feel like they should have won their series versus top team Triple B in week two. This is a team that's already really made a show out of beating the bottom teams in the league. They beat fifth seeded OGRH. They beat seventh seeded UHE. Now they are up against sixth seeded TFF 5G. And just also take another quick look back and give you guys a bit of a broader picture of what's happening in this league. We are, of course, in Division B of the Unstoppable League Season 14 fall season. That means that we are in a 17 round robin. So top four out of the group of seven will make it out. White Lotus currently sitting in fourth position with a 2-1 record. TFF 5G sitting in sixth position with an 0-3 record. So really, you got to think that if TFF 5G cannot find what I would say a strong upset of a result today, you basically can write them out of the playoff picture. Whereas White Lotus, I think they're really trying to just get themselves ready for postseason form.
I most certainly agree with you, but as always, I do love rooting for the underdogs, so I always want to wish for the TFF 5G to actually win this here. And really, I think we should just be able to get it rolling soon as long as everything starts getting checked out. I believe we were having some technical issues with one of the members of WL here, or maybe TFF 5G. I do not fully remember, but it looks like everything should be ready soon. And we can see you guys very soon.
So I think with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and throw it to a break. We'll be right back once we hit the rift. It's going to be TFF 5G versus White Lotus right here on the Risen Unstoppable League Season 14 Fall. Don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss the action coming up right after this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are now finally into the game, and it looks like we are starting off with maybe a invade happening here by WL.
Yeah, WL certainly playing the numbers game here. No one on the other side of the rift really screams to me level 1 invade. Like there's no Blitzcrank, there's no Nautilus, there's no fun champions, only sad champions here. I don't think it's going to mean a lot. I'm curious though, because this is kind of the narrative I've been setting up for this game. It's that I think that, frankly, WL seem like a much more organized team. They got the freaking letters in front of their names. It's got to mean something. But White Lotus seem like a little bit more organized of a team. They seem like the team that can really take advantage of a small differentiating factor. And now that WL are starting off, both sides are starting off with knowledge of where the other jungler is. I want to see whether or not those expectations live up to reality.
Yes, indeed. I will also state that it looks like WL does have a double ward instead. They have one on the Wolves and one on the blue buff compared to the blue team here's one on the blue. However, the information I believe is roughly similar.
Yeah, I don't really think it's going to be much of a difference. I think both teams are going to know basically that the jungler is starting opposite. So Zerathorn up on the top side, Swivel down on the bottom side. And we'll see how the lanes actually react to that, or I guess maybe the better question, especially for anyone who's played solo queue in the last, 8 years, is are they going to react to it? Do they have their monitors on? Who knows? But find out here on the Risen stream. Neither of these junglers really scream to me, we want an early gank. I mean, Skarner, he's the hijacker. He wants to wait for 6 and then yoink you in under his own tower, but can find some movement through the lane, so I'm curious to see whether it's going to be like the hard farming or trying to affect something in the early game.
Ooh. Yes, I don't really assume that he will go for any aggressive ease. I don't know the actual name of the ability, but we most certainly can see it just depending on how far that bot lane is pushed up, or maybe even the mid lane. However, that can only happen in the next couple of seconds. We will see something reactionary there.
We'll try and keep our eyes on that. So far, lane's playing out pretty much how I've expected so far. Nothing super crazy in terms of summoner spells or in terms of rune-wise. I am kind of surprised to see the Nasus winning the top lane. I know Kench is really going to have a better one-ish item spike, and also I think especially with the Triforce start for Nasus should be a cheaper one-item spike, but yeah, I don't really know what points of pressure blue side have to play around this game. I think I think the Xayah Rakan lane is going to be pretty strong. I think that Hui is going to be able to outrange Orianna, so I really need to see something here for the blue side out of TFF 5G to show me that they're going to be able to take control of this early game.
Yes, indeed. I do believe control in the early game isn't too horrible for WL here. However, there's a nice engage coming out from this Rakan, but nothing really big is made of it.
Yeah, nothing crazy. No summoners blown. We're still in the early, hex bug scuttering around the table kind of phase of the game where you really get the information after your first clear from the jungler before you start making big plays. Neutrals start coming up. Visions dropped. I like the robot I'm seeing from Bacon Shake, who's going up to shield that top side of the bottom jungle. Zerathorn goes for a little bit of a fishing expedition here on the mid lane, but Blocky Panda's not going to be caught off guard by it, so that should be a safe Orianna. And hey, everyone survived the first clear. Round of applause.
Honestly, that is quite surprising seeing the lineup here, but you most certainly shouldn't be surprised too horribly much.
14 CS, what's happening here?
Who has 14?
Arca, what are we doing? Okay, maybe that's a little bit too harsh, but Dog's looking scary. Dog is looking scary this game.
I mean, quite frankly, the Dog should not have any CS. I mean, not nearly as much as the Tom Kencher. He actually should get pushed out by this Catfish just due to how much power he does have. I mean, the only real positive that the Dog does have is his E and just the slight chip down that does involve.
Yeah, also interesting here, and I'm curious if this is going to snowball into anything else. Freshburger pushes that, it has so much control of the wave, pushes the top wave under enemy tower, and gets a free back out of it. So Freshburger is coming back with the Sheen completed, not having to blow either the TP or the Ghost, and is now going to be, a solid component up over Orca, who now needs to choose, do we try to back with TP? Do we try to gank to clear this wave? Because now something needs to happen in this top side to get Stabler Orca at least some sort of lead here. Pings out onto the what is that called? The Void Grubs. Thank you, game. Void Grubs have spawned, but I don't know if Stabler's the strong side jungler. But nope, it looks like it's just gonna be the handshake. Zerathorn's going for Dragon, Sweevil going for the Grubbies.
Yes, it is all around a relatively fair trade. I'm not exactly sure who favors the Grubs here at this point, but it looks like Freshburger is actually going in on Orca, popping his slow onto him. But it looks like nothing major is made from that fight outside of what I'm seeing is almost a freeze coming out from Fresh, and Swavey showing up shortly behind. Swavel, apologies.
Swavel is not expecting to get a kill here. There is no universe where you take down Freshburger with ultimate. The only idea is Stabler's just trying to push this wave under to buy
cause
time
a fight to happen, apparently. Okay, Stable Orca does have Freshburger in. Freshburger ults here. However, he has no mana to fight this. Just one more Q and he does get stunned up, but just not yet. He makes it under tower, and that is a flash coming out from Swavel there. And Freshburger makes it out alive with barely any mana.
So not exactly what we expected there. Now, I don't think that was how the blue side TFF 5G drew that up on the board, but it actually is a positive play for the top jungle duo out of Orca and Sweevil. Now, Sweevil did have to spend time in that top lane. However, it is now forced out the Ghost from Freshburger. It is forced out the TP. Stable Orca really needs to back it. Okay, cool. Stable Orca should be backing now. Go ahead, get that buy. You have equalized the lane state. Thank you very much, jungler. Go next. And about to say, at the same time, Zerathorn didn't make anything big happen on the map, so it's a positive play. It's a positive play for TFF.
Yes, indeed. And that, honestly, was kind of surprising that it was a positive play just due to how it did start out, quite frankly. But in the end, the dog went a little bit too far in and almost got entirely punished for it, but did make it out alive. And with this, Fuji and Slorthan are slugging it out here. Fuji is at half health. Ult coming out from Jason. Oh my goodness. The feathers come back from Fuji, and Bacon Shake is having to run away. But he's going right back in just because I forgot that character's name is showing up. Swavel is showing back up. Please go back to that fight, and there it is. Swavel's unstoppable, does stun down Fuji. Fuji is getting very, very low. He does pop barrier. However, he is still alive, but he finally goes down due to Swavel. And now there's a gank top lane happening from Zerathorn. Flash coming out from the frog, from the catfish. Catfish flying up. Orca is getting very, very low down. However, he does stun up on a Freshburger, and it looks like Orca might go down very soon. And he does go down due to the Freshburger.
Yeah, so a lot happening there. Junglers trade side for side. I say the biggest difference, though, is the 80 carry kill for Fuji. Besides that, it was a pretty standard story. Jungler ganks, jungler kills, good mechanics from either jungler, but yeah, it was just a disrespect out of Sloth and Bacon Shake, who are both thinking they think that they have control of this lane. We have Melio. Melio gives me extra range. Range is funny. 80 carry, funny. Haha, pew pew. Unfortunately,
Okay.
Rakan Zaya level 6 is very strong, and they don't respect that. Good engagement from It's John, and if there hadn't been Sweevil there, should have been a clean one for nothing. So, little advantage.
And there's the back
here.
cancel back, and ult coming out from this Orianna here. However, say hello to Skarner. And Blocky Pan is just making his way out, and so is Daz. However, he does not have TP, so he might be losing a little bit of tempo here.
Yeah, Blocky Panda with a good stop there. That would have been a pretty solid back from Daz. Now Daz is going to at least lose a wave, if not a portion. Yeah, is just going to lose the entire wave under tower. So, good plays there. I'd say not really any game-changing leads are being established here. I think the closest thing to that is about a 300 gold lead we have in the top lane for Freshburger. But, I mean, things are looking pretty even going into this kind of mid-game team fighting phase.
Yes, indeed. I mean, there is actually about a 1,000k gold disadvantage coming to the hands of TFF right here. But it's not too horribly noticeable at these early stages, but it most certainly can increase as the game does go on.
Yeah, and that's just down to the That's just down to the differentiation in the wave management states. White Lotus have had way better wave control. They've been able to pick up a few extra tower plates as a result. You can see 2 tower plates gone from the mid lane, 1 from the top lane. Little fight breaking out here on
At the
the Grubs.
grubs, but it looks like it
Yeah.
is just going to be secured by WL here, unless the miracle happens, but I am not
No.
expecting Christmas in October.
No, but I really like this out from White Lotus because they know they're probably, I would argue, the stronger team at this moment, especially if Stable Orca stays way the hell in top lane. They are the team that kind of wants to be forcing things right now, especially with the Xayah hopefully getting to that first item pretty soon and Rakan being very useful. So by taking away the grubs before Dragon even spawns, it takes away that handshake, and now you are forcing Sweevil to make a decision of, okay, do we just give this dragon? Do we fight for it? Speaking of which, Sweevil.
Oh my goodness, that is a flash coming out from Daz here, and it's Jason is getting very low. However, he is still alive at this point in time. Stun coming onto the Daz. He is going farther in onto Swavel here, and it looks like it just
Here's a
ends
duo lane coming up.
relatively even trade. However, a duo is showing up in the river right there. Onto it's John, and he barely makes it out.
Yeah, interesting little skirmish there in the mid lane. Blocky has a TP. Daz TP in a few seconds here. Sweevil on half HP is going to start the dragon, and oh, TP coming out from Blocky as well. Will confirm sole custody of this blue buff for TFF, who I thought White Lotus were really setting up there for a bit of a cleaner play. Didn't quite find it, and we're dead even now in terms of neutrals. 3 grubs and 1 dragon aside.
Yes, indeed. And it looks like there is an ult coming out from Stable Orca here, and he does more likely get the stun off on a Fresh Burger.
body
However, he's
block.
very low. Ghost does come out. However, Fresh Burger is moving. He does have no mana, so keep that in mind. Ghost is still active, and Orca turns around, and Fresh Burger lives to see another tower.
I'm pretty sure Stabler had that kill to rights. I don't think there's any universe that Freshburger actually gets out of that alive, but Freshburger gets out of it alive. So that's kind of the lane state I expect now for the next while before Nasus really starts stacking the items, getting the stacks. Tom Kent should be winning that lane. Question is, can TFF leverage the advantage that Stabler should have in this lane into anything further? That question's still very much to be seen. And again, going back to a blue side composition that really just doesn't have a piece of hard engage that can hit anyone but the front line. Somewhat worries me for what the mid to late game plan is here for the blue side, besides kind of hope Jinx kind of wins the game for us.
Yes, indeed. But I will state we are seeing something a little bit fun.
Who's
Sweevil
ganking
is showing up
who?
in the top lane, and it is a counter gank coming out from Zathroth. Oh my goodness, that just barely misses, and it looks like it's just relatively even out. And I believe some tower plates should be acquired there in the next 30 seconds. And that is an ult coming out from Panda here. Flash as well from Panda, dodging Daz's ult.
Yeah, interesting back and forth here. Also, I don't think we really mentioned it. I think we offhand kind of mentioned that, hey, you know, these are 2 substitute players this week. Zero Thorn in the jungle and Daz in the AD carry position. I don't think we ever actually acknowledged the fact that Daz is playing mid lane here, given that is a Hue pickup for them. Fuji's been doing a pretty good job so far, I'd say. Swapping down to that AD carry position. They're a traditional mid laner. Currently playing on that bottom side. Works pretty well for them. Maybe looking for that bot dive would be a little
bit
dangerous.
aggressive. Yes, especially not knowing where Sweevil is. And he was very close by.
Yeah, I will say, though, good. If there is one thing that is working a little bit better for White Lotus at the moment, is that they do have a better overall control of the map.
Oh,
It's
it
not
looks like
perfect by any
Orca's
means.
going in on Burger here. Apologies for interrupting, but I thought it may have been a little bit more entertaining. But it's just a back and forth. Stable Orca's going a little bit farther in, but nothing much.
Yeah, I was going to say the big advantage White Lotus have at the moment is the fact that, you know, there's not a lot of proactive plays happening from the side of TFF. They're not getting vision down. They're not really prepping any objectives. As I say that, Bacon Shake trying to get something down here. But yeah, again, like that top lane is still going to be the main point I keep hitting on. It's a lane that Orca should have a pretty sizable lead in, and unfortunately they haven't really been able to leverage that to anything. In fact, arguably, and I think legit, like actually, that's about a 8, somewhere between 700 and 800 gold lead for the Nasus in the situation, and I
And
gotta
that
see,
is
I gotta see TFF do something soon. We gotta flip the script at some point because you just are not going to win a late game with Dog.
Yes, indeed. Dog is one of the highest scaling champions in the game outside of Vigar, Acel, and, well, him. But now we're actually seeing a fight in this bot lane. It's Jason going farther in, did a double charm, and that is a one-man stun. Hook coming out from Zaythorn hit there, and it looks like it just gets cleaned up very quickly. Those fights are incredibly fast. Very, very different from what I see down in Bronze, which is where I'm stuck.
Yeah, and it's not anything out of this world for White Lotus. They have the numbers advantage on top side, and there's kind of this concept in team play, and that is the seesaw of power. But hold on a second, Sweevel may have something to say first.
It looks like it is just a slight throw of arguments with nothing major happening there.
I believe just a quick howdy doody is what Sweevel said as he runs away.
Maybe just a howdy as well. Depends on how nice he's feeling, of course.
Right, exactly. And it's this concept called like the seesaw of power, basically. And that is, if you are strong side one lane, aka you're a strong side one side of the map, aka your jungler's currently taking Herald, you're probably weak side the other. Okay,
say goodbye to the catfish. Goodbye to the catfish.
Yeah. That's a lost lane now.
Yes, indeed.
Looking at one of my favorite websites that I sometimes substitute for my own knowledge, counterstats.net, that is an average of a 423 gold lead lane TK in the Nasus. I gotta say, expectation is not matching reality at the moment because that's a big dog. He got that dog in him. And unfortunately, that dog went straight through that catfish.
Yes, indeed. And he also ate a tower as well. I don't know exactly what kind of diet that dog is on, but I guarantee you he is fed, to say the least.
Yeah, and this is now the mid game I was worried about for TFF. They don't have an advantage. They don't have a way into this pit. Here comes the TP.
And here is the start of the fight. That Swavel just getting very, very rooted. Zathor's going to the backlines. That is a cleanse coming out from the Blocky Panda there. And that is a beautiful double man knockup coming out from this Rakan. Nice double root as well. Flash coming out from Bacon Shake. And they're just trying to go farther. And Bacon Shake is getting very, very low. He does get shielded. Stable Orca is just tanking up that front line. Fuji getting very low. However, the rocket does come out from Jinx onto Zathorn with no kills being traded for either teams.
There's no way TFF just walk away from that, correct? That's insane. Okay, so I got a few things to say. First of all, this is the exact mid-game scenario I was worried about for TFF. They don't really have a way to exert their will on their opponents. They don't have frontward engage where they can try to pick off Daz or Fuji. They don't have a clear point of priority, and we're at the point of the game where there's only one neutral up at a time. I mean, that dragon was the only thing they had on the map, and they don't have any leads to leverage. I mean, they're Tom Kench, which should just be, super transformer, I am Tom Kench, I'm going to eat you alive. Catfish top laner is just not firing right now. And at this point, they are completely at the mercy of whatever White Lotus wants to do. If White Lotus want an objective, they're going to roll up to it first, and they're going to win. And currently, there is no response for TFF available.
Correct. I am curious how they are going to attempt to get that advantage or whether they're just going to keep spiraling down. That is a very common thing you do see in these sorts of games. Like, you just start getting very pressured to try and make a move, but it just ends up not happening, which makes you want to move more and more. But hopefully we don't lead to that small little snowball.
I mean, I think we're already on it. I mean, the only PowerPoint I am looking right now at from the blue side is, Jinx on 3 items. I think that's the only thing. And with that, the Catfish is getting engaged on. Fresh Burger is about to make minced meat out of Orca here, but he's just letting him live while teasing him a little bit, knowing that he can chop him up and cook him for breakfast. Yeah, I think the word engage may be used kind of charitably in that one. Kind of just Freshburger decided that Stabler was going to get some Qs, and that's exactly what Freshburger did. I'd say without Ghost, it's actually impossible for Freshburger to kill Tom Kench. Flash available plus W. There's no stun available for Freshburger, so Stabler should just be able to walk out of nearly anything here. That being
Yes,
said, here comes
indeed.
Weevil. I don't know
Nope,
if
he's
they win the
taking Grom.
2v1. No, I don't know if he's coming immediately, but like, I'm not convinced that Freshburger loses a 2v1 at this point.
I
I don't
agree
know.
with you there. And it looks like Swavel does agree with you as well, especially to the fact he does have information. 2 members of WL are showing up in his own jungle.
Yeah, and I mean, here's just that push. Mid lane dropping is very important from the red side of White Lotus. It frees up the map. Now they're going to be able to start invading Sweevel's jungle, and this is just good team play. You acquire some leads in the early game, and then when you're the team in the advantageous position, you just take everything. You take the neutrals, you take the towers, you take your opposition's jungle.
And Herald is mid, by the way.
That it was running out, and there is nothing else they could have done. That's not going to do anything besides put some money in the pockets of White Lotus, unfortunately.
Yes, indeed. And with that as well, Burger might be making a meal out of Orca, getting him very low. But keep in mind that shield is very huge coming out from Orca. It can probably survive maybe one extra shot. But it looks like Fresh Burger is making his way back home after taking a quick snack. Or maybe not. He might be going farther in.
At this point, what Freshburger can do what he wants. Freshburger has Ghost. Freshburger has Ultimate. Freshburger can do whatever they please. I mean, let's get a quick check-in on the Nasus. That's 573 stacks right now at 22 minutes.
Oh
That's just south of a 50 CS advantage for the Nasus lane. Yeah, that's just never going to get better. And the problem is what we were saying before. TFF need to try to win this game in the next 5 to 7 minutes. Nasus is just not answerable. Xayah, while not the hyperscaler that Jinx is still pretty darn good. But the problem is they have nothing to force their timetable. They don't have Engage. They don't have a winning lane right now. All they're hoping for, which I guess isn't the worst hope in the world, is that an Orianna Shockwave just randomly wins them a fight, which I'm not going to say is impossible. I'm not going to say it's likely at this point. Not because of the Orianna player, but just because that's not what that champion's built to do without the proper Engage to follow it up.
Correct. Yes, the only real Engage I am seeing is the Tahm Kench W just diving in and hopefully popping up in somewhere that isn't in the center of the team, except misses everyone. Because if you miss everyone, you're just in the center of the team. You're getting fried.
Yeah, about to say that's a wish of a engagement. That is a sending up a prayer to the man upstairs and saying, "Please let." And here it is. This could be the decisive fight of the game. Because
yes, indeed, Nasus is top lane.
He's got TP wards. I don't even think that White Lotus are convinced that they need to fight this.
Oh, but there is a TP in the back lane there, and it's Jason is going a little bit farther in. Oh my goodness, he's going all the way, and Freshburger does pop Ghost, and he is just in their backline, hitting it away. Ult coming out from Fuji here, and there goes the Tahm Kench. There goes the child, and there goes the rest of TFF 5G, just making their way out of there after getting their catfish and their child stolen.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think it gets any better for the side of TFF, and you exactly saw that. There was a 5v4 advantage play for TFF 5G, and they just don't have the tools to force anything. And it's not like a player issue, it is a compositional issue at this point.
Yes, indeed, and that is just a sad issue. That is just hazing, is what that is at this point in time. But it looks like we are seeing a little bit of action with a TP coming out from the Sway here. Swable is in the front line. Hello, Daz! And goodbye, Daz. He is still alive, but not fighting.
Okay, like they don't die for that TP. That just seems like a very foolish place to TP. Just like tempting fate almost. But I mean, heck, with Blocky Panda down, they may just look straight onto the Herald. And again, there's just nothing that anyone on TFF 5G can do about this.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the only thing you can do is hope for that Jinx rocket, but way too early to actually do anything. And with that, it's getting down to 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, and the smite now.
Yeah, now, like, this Baron's got to be the end of the game. I'm at the point with an 8k gold lead. Absolutely everything is going correct right now for the side of White Lotus. I am almost of the opinion that it is a massive failure if this game does not end with this Baron. at this point, if you're TFF 5G or if you're a coach or a captain of TFF 5G, you've got to be thinking about game 2. The only thing that can bring you back in this game is a massive misplay from White Lotus.
Yes, indeed.
Daz
And
and Fuji clasping hands, skipping into the enemy base, and then just dying under Fountain Turret. Anything besides that, I don't see how TFF win this.
correct. At best, it is a 2. You have to have 5v2 almost to get both those double gold shutdowns. But even then, I'm not exactly sure if that will make up the disadvantage they are facing here. I mean, just look at that. Daz is doing incredible damage to Orca here, and he only took a single Q, and he was just right in his mouth.
I mean, nothing surprising at this point. This is an 0-3 Tom Kench with no MR. Their usefulness has already dropped off the face of the earth. All of the early game, all the cards that TFF had to play in the early game, they gone bust. And again, it is a prayer and a miracle that they are hoping on right now. Siege continues. A little bit of a calm 1-3-1 seems to be the play here. Freshburger maybe a little bit less
demolishing the tower and say hello to It's-John on a stable Orca. That is a airborne knockup right there. And Orca knows what's happening. He is just ready for it. However, Swable is showing up, and so is the Skarner. It is now a 3v2 underneath the tower. Flash coming up for stable Orca. He does get pulled farther in. He is not dead just yet. He is actually still staying alive due to this Milio here, and he is still going. Tower does disappear top lane right there and say goodbye to the Milio. And Rakan actually does go down. Ult coming out from this sloth here, and Freshburger does go down as well. Fuji does get stunned as well, and he is having to go farther and farther away. Zathroth is showing up, and that is a double stun. Fuji gets eliminated there, and now it is a 3v1 on a Zaroth. However, he is trying to run away, and it looks like he is going to be able to make it out alive.
Oh, maybe in the top lane with Scorch damage.
Oh.
Daz from downtown. Interesting fight though. It was a pretty hard overcommit under that bot tower. I'll be honest, It's-John just completely whiffs the Rakan engagement, which again is why I criticize Rakan as your primary engage. He should be a follow-up where he can jump to one of your engagers on the enemy backline and then just lock them down for their 2 seconds. But Rakan whiffs, and with that, they don't really have the pressure to keep fighting under that tower. And Sloth gets the one thing you never want to give a Jinx: resets.
Yes, indeed. And with that, you immediately saw him start pushing farther and farther in, and there just wasn't anyone to contest him at that point until the end, to where Zaythorn was dealing some good damage to him, but just not enough when it was a 3v1 right there.
Yeah, it's rough, to say the least. And I won't say that fight had no impact on the game. But that's kind of what the Baron buff buys you. It buys you a little bit of wiggle room in terms of we can make a mistake and we're not going to lose the game. Sure, Sloth is closer to being, 3-item Jinx, kind of scary. But all the cards are still very much, the control of this game is still very much in White Lotus's hands. And speaking of control, it's control of Dragon Pit with 10 seconds left before Dragon Soul. Mount Dragon Soul's easily got to be a game ender.
And it most certainly will be. It just depends on how they are going to play this. But keep in mind on the Nasus top lane, and it looks like White Lotus knows this and are just taking their time, letting the dog do their work. And then just as this dragon is about to get to about 6,000 health, they might go in. Or they're just going to go for the end. They're just going to leave them, take the dragon. We're just going to go win the game.
They're not going to end the game. No. So if they wanted to end the game, what they needed to do is they needed to run at the dragon and prevent the recalls. But because they don't do that, they kind of go for a middle-of-the-road option, which is saying, look, we can trade an inhibitor for dragon. It's a middle-of-the-road thing. They don't want to get a little too antsy, maybe feeling a little bit worried after that last play goes awry. Again, there's still... Oh, Candyman. One more shot.
Yes, it does.
Candyman picks up the mid inhib tower. Very, very cautious is the way I would describe this White Lotus team right now. They really don't want to make the second mistake. They made the first one, which starts to eat away at their lead. A second and a third mistake, that might be game losing. So they're being very cautious right now not to give TFF anything at the moment.
Yes, indeed. And I always say it's better to be cautious. Slow is safe and smooth is fast. Wait, no. What was the saying? Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's the one. That's exactly what you have to do during these games. Take it slow, take it smooth, and then that leads to a quick game in the end. However, with that first mistake, they most certainly did get a little bit scared and played it a lot safer.
Yeah, they certainly did. And now I think we just kind of got to look at our neutrals again for what's going to be the next breaking point. I think now with one inhibitor down, this top inhib Baron's going to be very easy to pick up here from White Lotus. And again, if TFF come out to contest them, they've still got a TP out of the Nasus where they can try to end the game on a backdoor. They could just take the fight right in front of them, and I think that's still a fight that White Lotus, barring some wild misplays, still wins.
Yes, indeed. And what
Fresh
the?
Burger is just going to kill Blocky Panda.
Panda! I am so sorry, my friend. And the dog demolishes the robot.
That's Baron now because there are not enough cards on the table for TFF to answer all the threats right now. They cannot at the same time try to take this Baron as well as defend the base. They've sent Sloth back, the only member that can win this team fight, and they're going to try to steal it? Here's the...
And
I don't know what the call is here.
I am very intrigued in what the play is. However, it looks like the entirety of White Lotus might be trying to go in a little deep. They're more than likely just going to run it through mid because they do have that Baron buff, and it should just be a smooth, sweet slip and slide straight to that inhibitor.
I mean, it has to be. I don't know what just happened. I guarantee what happened is that blue side absolutely panics there. They know they need to send somebody back, and they also try to contest the Baron. Like, I was almost expecting people to sacrifice their lives just flashing over the wall, trying to get a steal. It's low percentage, but hey, it's something. But in that case, why is Bacon there? Why is
Lotus Stable Orca? That is a nice double ult coming up from this Orianna here. Stable Orca is getting about half health, and oh my goodness, there's a lot of things happening. Sai does secure one kill. Stable Orca getting very, very low. He does finally go down, and it looks like it is now a 3v5 right in front of this tower, and Fresh Burger looks like he wants a bite. And with it, that is a flash coming out from Sloth immediately there. And it looks like this more than likely will be the game. Saying goodbye to the Jinx. Didn't even have time to commentate on, and that is a root coming out onto Blocky Panda. Blocky Panda does go down, and Hui secures another kill onto the Orianna and then the Milio as well. And with that, that is game one going to the hands of WL with a commanding lead being 15-4.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That game was never what I would describe as close. White Lotus definitely stumbling a few times on their path to the finish line, but they never weren't leading the race. I think ever since those early few plays, TFF, they not only didn't do anything in the early game, they didn't give themselves the chance to win the mid game. I very much think this is something that TFF 5G need to go back to the table. They need to find their engage. They need a composition that not only could win the early, but also gives them outlets in the later game. And White Lotus is a team you have to respect, that they are a team that if you do not have a composition that is competitive at every point of the game, they're just going to take it and run. Big props White Lotus for being cautious and not even giving themselves a chance to throw away that lead, but I think we've only seen the start. I think they're just getting ready.
Yes, indeed. I can most certainly concur with you. And with that, we'll be heading to a slight break as we are preparing for game two. We'll see you all very, very soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Game 2 of TFF 5G versus White Lotus, where White Lotus took a commanding lead in the first game. And Stevie, are you expecting anything big for this next game, or are you expecting something relatively similar to what we saw last?
Well, for the love of all that is holy, I better not see something similar for this next game. TFF they need to pick themselves a comp that can actually do something in the mid game. They basically picked their entire comp around Tom Kench winning the early game and then Jinx scaling up to be a monster in the late game. Tom Kench absolutely lost that lane, and then they didn't have any engage to do anything in the mid game. So besides that, I don't know what they need. They need some form of engage. They need to do something differently, and it's all going to come down to how they draft here. Do keep in mind we are in Fearless, so all those champions at the top right there are champions that team cannot pick. And TFF again on the blue side, they go with Kai'Sa as their first pick. So sticking with the 80 carry B1 picking trend, we'll see what WL respond with.
And I will state, Kaisa it's actually very similar to the Jinx in almost all aspects outside of the frenzy, of course, in regards to how she is played. Sort of. Definitely a little bit, but I am expecting maybe something similar in the terms of support to match, or hopefully I want to see a Nautilus. It should match very
About to say
well.
Nautilus is the best champion in the game to pair with Kai'Sa. It
Yes,
should be a
that is
little bit
why I'm
more.
excited for this.
Yeah, it should be a little bit more aggressive than the Jinx. It's not the kind of champion that you just click on and expect it to win the game for you 45 minutes, but it's something that can get something a little bit more done in the early game. Smolder locked in. I believe that's potentially Smolder into the top lane. We've been seeing it as a solid pick into just the pure top tanks. I'm not saying it's going into the top lane. It's like it could go 80 carry, but it's probably going top side.
It can
Just as
also
the
go mid. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's definitely something that I have seen. And a Leona pick
okay.
for me isn't a bad one. I would have loved Nautilus a little bit more just because it pairs a little bit better, but it works.
Yeah, I'm
It's
about to say
the
it.
engage we're missing.
Yeah, Leona certainly fits. I wish there was a Leona in last game. Um, it fits the bill. It gives them something to do, and it always gives them a chance to find a front-footed engage, even if you were behind. Sometimes you can win a fight purely based off your engage, and that's what they were lacking last time. They were lacking that X factor that could have won those situations. But looks like already White Lotus, they're adapting and they're preparing for this as Poppy is kind of the ultimate anti-engage. Curious to see whether that's going to be a jungle, a top Poppy, or my personal favorite support Poppy. Because I think
Yes,
that worked very
indeed.
well in this matchup.
Support Poppy has been a very good thing. I actually wrote her up a couple ranks recently because she was broken in, I believe, like 4 patches ago, and then she's back to being a relatively good support. I believe S tier at around like 53-ish% win rate, give or take, but that obviously is solo queue, and that is a very big difference. The main question is if she's going to be able to get engages off in this situation and also stop a Mumu and Leona
Yeah.
engages, as well as the Kaisa
But
on top of
I'm
that.
about to say, I think it's less of making an engage kind of champion. It's more about preventing opposition engages. Okay. White Lotus also are throwing the Hui ban. So they do not want TFF 5G to go through with it. Right now, honestly, this would be the comp where you want an Orianna for TFF because now they need that that big damage that's going to be there to follow up your engage of a Mumu Leona. They don't quite have that yet. Red side for White Lotus, they could use some hard engage of their own right now, is what I'm thinking.
A Seraphine hover.
Oh, is this a Sarah Senna? Has Senna been banned yet? No, it hasn't. They could be threatening the Seraphine Senna, or they could even just be a Seraphine Poppy lane. Seraphine Senna would be dangerous to play into a Leona Kaisa, but it could work with enough poke damage. Um, and if
I'm
TFF
intrigued to
5
see where they will go with this, quite frankly. And a Vayne to match and a Kale top.
Jesus, scaling! What the hell? Okay, so
Hmm.
they've said, screw it, we're going late game. Engage is good. Kai'Sa's not the most late game champion in the game, but she can get the job done. Vayne lock-in, I assume, is like, we think there's a Smolder in the top side, so we're just going to play a Hyperscaler into it. And then Kale as well. So one of these has got to be going mid lane as well. Um,
Hmm.
wow, okay. So
This got a lot more entertaining, quite frankly. I'm very intrigued where they are going to play this. And I believe the main tell on what exactly is going to be happening is due to that last pick and a Aurora. is what's being hovered right now, which I don't know exactly how that'll match. I haven't seen her played at this level yet, quite frankly.
Well, first of all, I don't know who the hell the matchup is. Because I think at this point, if I had to make a guess, it's likely Smolder top, Udyr jungle, Aurora mid lane, Seraphine Poppy bot lane for White Lotus, and then I I, I don't even know what's going on the blue side. So here's where I'm almost kind of worried about the other way, because you have Kale and Vayne, who realistically just are not champions until the later stages of the game. So cool, you got Leona Amumu. Who wins you this early game? Um, and I think that's the hard pivot that White Lotus have made now. They're seeing that there's just really not a late game. There's not an early game for TFF 5G. So pick Seraphine, pick Aurora, two champions that can do something in the early to mid. Seraphines should be oppressive as all hell into the bot side. Aurora should have a decent matchup into either Vayne or Kale, I would imagine.
Mhm.
All right, well, here's the game plan. Can TFF 5G hold a less than 5k gold deficit going into the 30th minute of the game? That's a dangerous gambit going up against a team who has the lowest average game time in the league at the moment. White Lotus are leading that
Yes,
statistic at 28 minutes and 2 seconds. So, I hope it seems like TFF's a gambling kind of team.
I most certainly agree with you, and quite frankly, after seeing that last game, that's not a bet I would like to take, especially because I believe that game was under the 30 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been more. I can't remember fully 100%. But it's most certainly a dangerous gamble. I mean, you have the two late scaling champions, and when you didn't get to late game last time, I'm just not exactly sure if that's a risk you would want to take.
Kale v Smolder is the top lane matchup, which I believe means is that a Vayne versus Aurora mid lane? How does that even work? I don't even think I can bullshit some numbers to you guys because I don't think those numbers exist.
It's not something I don't think has ever been seen in this area. They both do have the 3-hit passive, obviously, but that's not really going to be too. Oh, is that a Kaisa mid?
Okay, poke Kaisa. AP poke Kaisa, I suppose makes more sense. Which means it's going to be the Vayne Leona bot side, which you really want to put Kaisa in the lane with your hard engaged champion. Just because that's what will trigger your passive. And now in the solo lane, sure you have W poke, but you don't have a way to get anyone else to proc your passive for you, which is kind of the strength of the Leona Kaisa lane. Uh, I- this should be a good one.
If it's Steve and Stevie confused, I'm not even going to try and interject on what exactly is going to be
I
happening
think
this
that
game.
TFF is confused. I don't think it's just us.
I would not be too horribly surprised if they're just, throwing some dice and yelling Yahtzee in the background. But if that is the case, please send me a video of y'all doing that. I would love to see you going all the way in on it.
Yeah. I guess we may be in the kind of the age-old strategy. If you don't know what you're doing, your opposition doesn't know what you're doing. I won't say this is a foolproof composition from the red side here, but I have got to say I think I heavily lean towards White Lotus here, picking up game 2 in what I can only assume is going to be decisive fashion, and moving on to their next round opponents. That's going to be Week 5 versus the Panthers with a 3-1 record. And again, this is potentially one of the more important games that TFF 5G will play this season. They are currently 0-2 on the outside of the playoffs, looking in. I'm sorry, I think I reported earlier that they were 0-3. They are actually 0-2, as they did have the bye in round 2. So they really need to get a win on the board here if they are going to be looking at the playoffs. And the problem is they still have the top of the table left to play. They've still got to play the Panthers. They've still got to play HS. They've still got to play quite a few teams up here. So good luck. And I guess I'm maybe they have some plan. I just don't know it, but we'll see as we get into game here.
If they do have a plan, I do hope it does, plan out as they did. But if Stevie's confused on your plan. I don't think there is much of a plan outside of maybe just going for pocket picks and characters that they want to play. But I guess only time will tell. And with that, I believe we will be heading to a break to wait for the spectator delay and see you guys very soon. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Game 2 of, what are the team names? White Lotus versus TFF 5G. Apologies about that. And it looks like instead of the 5-man invade we were seeing on the first game, we are seeing a nice little 5 points, which is a definitely intriguing change from last time.
Yeah, I mean, Leona and Mumu could go for the early invade, but the other three champions don't do a lot in the early laning phase. A few confirmations for us here. It is, in fact, the Kaisa mid versus the Aurora, which I believe over a sample of 28 games we could even find on the internet. I believe it's a 35% win rate for the Kaisa, so don't know if it's recommended to roll this one on your solo queue games, but we'll check to see what Blocky Panda can do on it. Kale versus Smolder is an interesting scaling versus scaling matchup. And then, of course, the bottom lane, which is indeed Vayne Leona versus Seraphine Pape. Yeah, this is an interesting one.
Certainly, to say the least. This is one that I can't say have seen before. But I'm excited to say the least. But we will see how this goes, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's an interesting difference in the team comp from last match for TFF here. Primarily, they opted for a lot of early engagement. They went for the Leona plus the Amumu, which are probably the one of, if not the best, jungle support combinations you can have for making things happen in the early game. And then I guess the idea is that their engage is just so good it kind of carries them to the late game. But in order for that to work, I'm going to need to see something especially out of jungler Sweevil on the Amumu.
Yes, indeed. And with that, Orc is just getting so low.
No, you don't pop a potion. You back. You back right now.
Unfortunately, he actually could go down there.
He doesn't have a single. They don't have a single CS yet. Oh, that is painful.
He has one.
Okay,
he has one.
Starting with the
half
call,
of the supports.
Yeah, that is not what I would call a confident top lane at the moment. Starting with the Culver scale, I mean, they know what the game plan is here, and that is just put this game into the 60th minute if possible. Which I will say, if we reach the 60th minute, blue side probably wins, but I'd also be asking for like a wellness check on the red side here. Good disengage.
My goodness, beautiful block coming out from Jason here. However, Sweevil is showing up. It is a 3v2 there. Double flash coming out from White Lotus there. Beautifully in sync. And I would rate that a 10 on the diving platform right there.
I don't think it was entirely necessary. I think the distance was there. I would have rather see John go for the pin and then the flash away, because you probably could have saved your Seraphine's flash. But yeah, I mean, Seraphine Poppy's got to be one of the hardest lanes to gank I could think of. Stable's got to be very careful up here.
Oh, yes. And I will state he is sitting at 8 CS, which definitely isn't horrendous at this point in time, but it's most certainly not good.
It's suboptimal, I would say. Freshburger.
And that is a flash cut off for Freshburger and flash cut off for Orca as well. Oh, my goodness. A trade of flashes is, I believe, a lot more important in the hands of Freshburger here. So hopefully he does improve his lead based on that.
Yeah, I think Fresh is going to be looking for the back here. TP back to lane. Zerathor
flash coming out from Blocky Panda.
Yeah, about to say Flash doesn't save HPR enough to stick in the lane. So really good gank there from Zerathorn, because able to, without blowing their own flash, force the flash out of Blocky Panda and force the recall. So doing a lot to set up Daz for this laning phase, and it's going to be real hard for Blocky Panda to walk back up and aggressive in this lane without the flash.
Yes, indeed, because once again, that win rate is not good against an Aurora, and I will state as of this point in time, there is a 1 level difference, but do keep in mind of the mana difference as well, which most certainly can be a deciding factor if this Kaisa, Mr. Blocky Panda, does want to go in. And speaking of which, Slothy just got very low due to a very nice Q coming out from Fuji.
Yeah, here's the issue with the Vayne swapping to lane instead of the Kaisa. It is such low range that the only advantage you have there. Oh, here comes the gank.
Comes Zaythorn onto Stable. Orca flash coming out from Zaythorn onto Stable, and Orca is just getting absolutely destroyed. Stable, and there he goes with the kill going to the hands of Freshburger.
Yeah, once you trade the flashes in the top lane, that's just an inevitability. Jungle Gang comes around. I don't know if the flash was necessary, but it secures the kill on the top side. And again, I don't think that's a lane that gets any easier play anytime soon for Stabler. But what I was saying in the bot lane is that the only advantage you have in the bot side is the Leona engage. So if Poppy's able to disengage everything away, I mean, Vayne just absolutely cannot do anything here.
Oh my goodness, engage coming out from Svevel here. And it was just a trade for
back.
damage, and he's already backing anyways.
Yeah, TP should be coming back in. Blocky could look for the W just to be really annoying, but yeah, it's not a flash burn. It's just going to be TP back from Daz, who is in a comfortable position in this lane, still having the flash. And again, there just is not a point of pressure now on this map for the blue side. TFF is a completely outclassed here, at least out of the drafting phase. Their players aren't good enough to completely overcome a inoptimal draft, and now it is the only person who really can do anything, or the only two people I am looking at this point is Bacon Shake and Sweevel. They're the only two X factors on this team that can salvage this early game. Otherwise, White Lotus are just going to absolutely roll this team over. Speaking
Indeed.
of which, they may be coming
Speaking
together.
of which, yes, indeed, something is happening. Engage coming out from this Leona here. However, it does get stopped. Beautiful flash coming out from Bacon Shake as well, and that is so much damage coming out. Say goodbye to the Seraphine. Mr. Fuji is gone. And with that, a kill is going over to the hands of Leona. Wait,
Yeah, a little bit
Leona
of
kill. Okay.
I mean, not optimal, but it's fine. Freshburger may have another kill up here.
I believe he does, even though the ult did miss. It looks like he is just actually going to back up. I thought it might have been a little bit more exciting there, but unfortunately, no.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still be cautious up there. Freshburger should still be able to push this under the tower pretty aggressively. A little bit disappointed in the bot lane for White Lotus. They saw people hanging around there, and I think John could have done a little bit more to try to get Fuji out, maybe even sacrificing themselves in the process, but either way, just going to be the dragon. But, oh, speaking of caution.
It looks like there's just a nice gank coming out from Zaythorn, and there's nothing Orc can do except secure that cannon and pop his ult, apparently. And Zaythorn just drove past, and he is coming right back in. Freshburger gets him very low, and he is almost down. The turret shot does go to Zaythorn instead, and that is a kill going to the hands of Zaythorn.
Yeah, it's just a textbook drive-by from the jungler. Knows that the only thing that can stop that gank is the Kayle ultimate. So you go once to blow the ultimate, reset, and you know you have enough time because Sweevel's just backing from finishing the dragon. So they gank once to get the Kayle ultimate. They gank twice to get the kill. Great play out of the top side there, and continuing to make a very tricky situation for the Kayle even trickier.
Yes, indeed, and that was also some very good macro coming out from the Zaythorn there, because he just knew, he just, once again, does the drive-by, takes what is his, as in the Kale's ult, and then just comes back to finish the job, which is not what you want to see from the hands of Stable Orca, but he just wants to keep it going.
Yeah, it's just going to be continuing that. It's an inability to really do anything in this Kayle matchup in the top side. Mid lane, I'm honestly surprised with how well Blocky Beta is holding on here. A lot more attention has been placed into the top lane for White Lotus, and then even the bot side, despite the kill, is still a pretty solid lane here for Fuji and John. Interesting to see that continue, but no, this is the time before really the mid game carries start coming online for White Lotus. So again, this is the time I'd like to see them do something a bit more. But so far, all we've really been seeing is trade a neutral for neutral.
With that, Freshburger knows he can just hit that ult and hits a lot of damage onto Orca. It looks like Orca will more than likely just have to run away for fear of Freshburger. However,
there's no running.
Say hello to the dragon. Oh, and he's getting very, very low. Flash coming out, double flash, and say goodbye to Orca. That has got to be a crime.
Very, very greedy from Orca there. Tries to hold on to the flash.
Oh my goodness, beautiful maximum range hook coming out from Swavel, and that is everything on to Fuji. Fuji does go down. Very nice play coming out from Swavel, as well as Bacon Shake.
Yeah, that was actually pretty crazy. Sweevel goes the only way that where they're not going to be seen, so that's through the lane via the alcove, and waits until John roams up to the tri-bush to ward, and when when Fuji's all alone, flash max range Q with the bandage toss, and hey, it is easy as you like it.
Yes, indeed. Quite frankly, I believe that was as maximum range as you could have gotten on that, and it was just a beautiful play all around. And as well as the Leona getting thrown in there, and then also the added benefit of the kill actually going to the Vayne, which will hopefully allow them to get to that 30th minute they're oh so desperately looking for.
I would hold your horses right there, but it's going to be a step in the right direction. And it's making sure that they at least have some gold in their pockets when these mid-game fights do break out, because I am very much expecting, you know, second drag, third drag, and especially with Seraphine ults up and available, are going to be hotly contested. Rubs are coming right now. In fact, that's going to be a fight breaking out. Zerathorn does have the level lead, and look here, John's already roaming away. Should make for a very dangerous situation down here for Fuji, though.
Yes, indeed, and I will also state, I didn't pay attention to the first grubs. That is actually, they're at number 5 grubs and then 6 grubs. So they have a absolutely massive advantage at this point in time, and hopefully that allows them to push that forward. If you are on the hands of TFF 5G there, you might have wanted to actually, at minimum, get 1 to stop the 2 grubs, but it just didn't have the availability to do that, or maybe not the positional awareness to recognize that it is up. I cannot say which one, of course.
I mean, I can. They just don't have the pressure. It was first movement out of John to contest those on the top side. The reason why it was 3 grubs in the first place was it was that handshake trade where Sweevel went for the dragon and Zerathorn went for the grubs, and they were happy to handshake that. But grubs spawn earlier than second dragon if they're at the same time. So, you know, it was just good first movement from White Lotus. They didn't bring any resources to contest it, and heck, they didn't. That's a kill.
And oh, that is a beautiful ult coming out from Orchid just to keep him alive. However, say goodbye.
Yeah. It's not getting any easier in the top lane.
Oh, yes. He most certainly got stroked out there, didn't he?
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry.
It was an attempt, but yeah, we have our thesaurus flying around here. But, oh my gosh, I mean, look at the CS differential. But yeah, no, here's exactly what we're talking about now. I'd be really curious if they actually try to contest this. I don't think they have the resources to. That is a beautiful engage coming out from Sweevel, and an ult. However, he just does not know. There's 4 people there, my friend. He is trapped in that circle, and say goodbye to Sweevel. Bacon Shake almost gets ulted there. However, he is still moving away with the rest of White Lotus just making their way downtown. I don't know why they're here. They don't have a jungler. They can't possibly contest it.
That is a double root as well. And John gets a nice stun into the wall, and it looks like
TP from Fresh.
TP from Fresh as well. That is just going to be a secure dragon. Say hello to Fresh Burger here. And it looks like 1 kill is going to be going on to Fresh Burger, on to the Slav, and say goodbye to Bacon Shake as well, going to the Udyr. And it looks like it's just going to get wrapped up there. Except Fresh Burger is actually going a little bit farther in. He's about half health, quarter health, and he is almost dead. However, John is showing up to show his support. I say goodbye. Beautiful shot coming out from Panda to absolutely murk the dragon. The baby dragon, not the real dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good consolation prize, and it is very sloppy from John from Freshburger to go down there. Don't know what they really expected to get done after that Tri-Bush exchange, but I just have absolutely no earthly idea what TFF is thinking there. They lose their first engage, they lose their jungler, and then they still think with the scaling composition that it is a good idea to stick around Dragon? I mean, that's not how you get this game to 30 minutes. You need to trade. If your opponent's on Dragon and they are stronger, go play topside. Go take a top tower. Go take this Herald. Go take some of their top jungle. The worst thing you can do is give the team that's in the lead the fight that they want. And unfortunately,
yes, indeed. And speaking of which, that's exactly what's about to happen. That is the ult coming out from Daz here. Sweevel is getting very, very low. He does have to flash away, but does go right into the enemy's hands. And with that, he is just delivering them a nice hot and ready meal. And on top of that, it is a Herald as well as the top turret. That, I don't even know how much gold that adds up to, but if you know that, I would love to actually know how much that would equate to. But math is hard.
It's inconsequential at this point. It's just a lot. We're already at just south of a 6K gold lead, about 5K. when you look at the top of your screen, and you just can't have that at 15 minutes. This has just been an absolute rout of an early game from White Lotus. And again, we are now entering a mid-game period where, because we picked Kaisa, Vayne, and Kale, we don't do shit for the next 20 minutes of the game. And unfortunately, the game's going to end in the next 20 minutes. I'd wager it's going to end in the next 10 at this pace.
Most certainly agree with you, and with that as well, the bottom turret does go down to the hands of the Smolder. And let me see if I can get a quick check on his stacks. He has 158, so he is on a very good ruse to get into that. I believe it was like 225 that is necessary for him to start getting those executes.
Yeah, I don't even know if we're gonna. I don't even know if we're gonna be in the game long enough to get to that point. But yeah,
I most
that's
certainly
just
concur.
that's just another of the massive breakpoints that Red Side's hitting right now. I think a game would even more like put away if the first Seraphine ultimate that mattered, which was the Dragon Fight one, didn't go like 90 degrees to the side. But it's still like, when White Lotus are going to roll up to this next fight, they have absolutely everything they need, not only to win that fight, but basically to end the game off of it. 6k gold lead is not surmountable at this point. You need to, once again, fall back, let White Lotus do whatever they want to do, and just hope that they're not smart enough to end the game in the next 10 minutes.
Yes, indeed, but based on the way that White Lotus has been playing, I assume they most certainly are smart enough to recognize that, and hopefully they will just push through, either crack open the mid with this next Dragon and or Baron. However, Dragon is up in a minute 30.
With this Herald.
They do still have the Herald. I did not see that.
Yeah, Zerathorn's got the Herald. White Lotus just needs to make everything a 5v5 bloodbath. They just need to figure out, after every play, they just need to, as 5, figure out what's the next thing. Okay, everyone collect waves for a minute, then next fight. Boom. They just need to keep the hits rolling. They have got their opponents on the back foot. They are reeling on the edge of a knockout right now. And if they just need to not let off the gas pedal, and they're going to find themselves the winners here.
Yes, and speaking of going to pedals, keeping your foot on the gas, say goodbye to half that tower's health. I'm not sure if they will be able to take it here. However, Bacon is getting stuck out by John, and this is a very weird split fight here. Ult coming out from the Fresh Burger.
Either.
And Spreevo goes down as well as the Leona. And now there's just a small little additional fight, but White Lotus takes a smart move and just starts backing it up.
And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, wave goodbye to every champion that has some sort of agency in the next 10 minutes. They're dead. Good moving here, and I think they're going to find another.
They most certainly do, and they also do burn the flash as well. That was just a very unfortunate read coming out from the hands of Orca there. Just thinking he had slightly enough health to survive that, but it just wasn't enough.
No, it was not. Now it's just going to be rinse and repeat. I mean, the problem is there is nothing that's going to change about that in the next few minutes. I think it's going to be a back out from White Lotus. They should move over to the Dragon. They should take it uncontested. And if it is a contested Dragon, I don't see a world where they don't just 5x wipe the opposition. They've got good vision set up right now in that bot side jungle. Sweevil is trying something onto Daz. I don't know if they have the
flash coming out from Daz. Daz is still alive, and he does actually pop ult. Beautiful block coming out from John. And it looks like even with all that engage, the blue team here couldn't secure a kill.
No, they still got to be careful. Kaisa does a lot of damage with the W with this build, but as long as Daz heals back up, I don't think there's any shot in hell that they take this Dragon away. And the problem is, Sweevil is just here watching this Dragon go down. So when your opposition is on a Dragon, you know where they are. You know that they're in bot side, and that should open up the door to you top side. But they are so weak right now that they don't even feel comfortable moving into that top side. So it's hey, see you on Dragon there, neighbor. You have a great time. I'm not going to do anything about it, which, unfortunately, it just comes down to this. I feel like I am getting somewhat negative, and to be fair, this is a very bad game. This is a very bad series from TFF 5G. But here's the synopsis. This has just been a much better fundamental game of League of Legends and Series of League of Legends.
Oh my goodness, ult coming out from Sweevil onto Ace John. John flashes out, and that is a ult coming out from Fuji as well. I don't exactly know the cooldown of Fuji's ult, but I can guarantee you it's not short. And it most certainly can. 78 seconds. That's not horrible, but it can be detrimental if a fight happens within the next minute.
I don't really think I've seen an ultimate from Fuji that I can wholeheartedly endorse here, but again, there are some luxuries that just about 10k gold lead at 20 minutes will grant you, and that is the ability to miss a few Seraphine ultimates in it to not really matter.
Yes,
Baron's
indeed.
up here. Baron's up here, and I don't really see a reason why they don't just immediately roll up to this topside jungle for... why White Lotus don't just immediately roll into this west quadrant of the jungle, ward up, and then just take the Baron. And if the enemy approaches, kill them. And if they don't, take the Baron and win the game.
Correct. Yes, it is definitely... It most certainly is endgame at 20 minutes, which is definitely not something you see too horribly often. But this is a very big catch-22 you have on the hands of TFF to where, you know, you want that Baron. You know they're going to get that Baron. You can attempt to stop them, but you're going to die in doing so, which then causes the Baron to be useless. So it's really just take what you can, even though there's not much taking that can be done by their hands at this point in time.
Yeah, they just are so out of options at this point. It is, again, it is purely just hope that there's a mistake here. It's hope that White Lotus makes some sort of horrific mistake, they misposition, they misfight, and then you can capitalize. But looks like they may be on the prowl here for Sloth.
And it looks like you are more than likely right. However, just out of range. And I will say Daz is rotating up. And the blue team here, TFF, does know that.
Yeah, they're looking for whatever they can, but I mean, this is just good, smart setup now from White Lotus. They're taking their time. They're making this blue side jungle inaccessible to their opposition. And when you can't even see the jungle, let alone the Baron buff, it's just absolutely a suicide mission to try to contest it. And this is what good League of Legends is. It's about giving your opponent a bunch of unwinnable situations. There is no right answer here at the moment for TFF. They either have to face check and die or give over the Baron and lose the game. There is no winning here for them.
Correct. The only real, I mean, slight of a possibility is to just stay alive. That is their only saving grace. And with that, that's just changing. Daz makes Orca pop an ult, and I don't think he will survive much longer, and I am most certainly right with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is an 0-6 KL at this point. Again, it's just, sure, you get your spikes at the next few levels, but with every level of your ultimate at this point, but it's not really a saving grace. Here comes the Baron, TP in from Daz, and yeah, they know it. There's question mark pings. Here comes Sweevil. They're going to see the approach here from TFF. Do they turn and fight, or do they just burn this Baron?
That is the biggest question, and with that, it is at 7,000 health, 6,000, and it looks like TFF is just sitting here because keep in mind they are at a disadvantage, and almost someone got sent back. However, TP is coming in. The Baron is getting very, very low, 1,000, 2,000, and gets smited by the Udyr there. And Amumu does secure one kill. Say goodbye to the Amumu. And Bacon Shake gets absolutely eviscerated there. Now it is a 4v3. And it looks like TFF knows that and is making their way out without a Baron and missing 2 members as well. However, Blocky Panda is going in, my friend. That's not what you want, especially due to the fact Fresh Burger does have his ult.
Yeah,
sorry, does have the execute. Apologies.
I'm kind of surprised that White Lotus are backing out here. They, like, your best team fighter, Suicide's in there for the Baron and ends up dying. White Lotus are so much stronger than TFF right there. I think if they take that fight, they continue, they win the fight, they win the game off of that, but they're just so cautious, which I'll be straight with you. Right now, it doesn't really matter because there is, unless they absolutely throw this game away, they are not losing this game, let alone the series, to TFF here. But up against better competition towards the top of the table, this is what could have cost them, honestly, in that big matchup versus Triple B. This is something that definitely can bite them in the ass going into the postseason. They need to be
From what I'm
when
seeing, they are struggling to know when they can win it. They are obviously winning it very, very well. But look at this. It's John just gets caught out and gets a quarter of his health eviscerated. And the dragon does disappear, given the 3rd Drake over to the hands of White Lotus as well.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter, though. John has the flash. Yeah, not having the flash is not great on the Poppy, but you nearly just blew everything to kill a support Poppy, and she got down to half HP. It's not a great, statement about where you are as a team right now. Baron buff down the mid lane. Freshburger honestly can die.
Very low. He actually does flash.
Why is Kale pushing top lane?
I mean,
this is what matters. White Lotus are just shoving down the mid lane right now. They have the Baron buff. They have the grubs.
What White Lotus needs to do here is just push it through. Just get a kill and win.
I mean, they got to be careful. Freshburger is without the TP now. Went up to the top side. But yeah, White Lotus, they decide to respond to the Kayle instead of looking to end the game here.
Which is definitely an intriguing pick, just due to how much range that TFF does have here. They might actually be able to stop this siege, even though it is Baron buffed. And that is a hook coming out from Bacon Shake, but it is blocked by John. Oh my goodness, I am sorry, Bacon. That was a lot of damage and will more than likely cause TFF to escape. And more than likely give this tower as well.
Yeah, they're looking for it. I mean, Poppy Ultimate should buy them the space they need. Lands on the Kayle.
And
That's not a champion. That's a large minion at this point in the game. But yeah, they're
correct,
stopping Nib.
but
They should get the. They got the mid and Nib. They should get top and Nib too.
I can most certainly agree with you. Unless something extraordinary happens, I'm not really expecting TFF to do anything outside of just clear wave as much as they can. This could also spell the end of the game for TFF, but it looks like White Lotus is going to play it safe and just head home.
Yeah, I mean, 2 inhibitors is definitely a good pickup there for the Baron. Again, I think they could have got a little bit more if they had the confidence to, go for the end there. But again, when you're looking at the scale of things of are you worried about being too aggressive or not aggressive enough, I can understand the idea here that you are so much in the lead, you're not going to lose the game if you're just a little under your full potential here in terms of aggression, in terms of fighting. It's not going to cost them anything. It's something they need to look at going into the later stage of the season. However, in terms of getting the job done here today, just knock them down. You're good. Dragon, Soul up in 2 minutes 30, Baron up in 2 minutes. Take your pick. Either of them will win you the game.
Most
Honestly,
certainly.
at this point, I don't even know that they don't just set up here 5 people in bot lane, just work on getting this bot tower down. You have 2 waves of super minions coming in your mid and your top side, where if they match you with 5, they're going to lose their nexus through mid and top lane, and if they don't match you as 5, they lose the game through bot lane. So, again, White Lotus doing a good job of putting TFF in unwinnable situations here. Look for the Hex Flash of the wall.
Yes, and honestly, look at that wave clear already. They should just be able to take this tower. It's already about half health. Getting down just a little bit lower quarter, and it is gone. And with that, the TFF didn't even really have time to respond to that. So now they're just all down in the bot lane, except for the Kayle, of course, wondering where their tower is.
Yeah, I mean, Kayle, power to the Kayle, they know that they're just not going to be helpful in this situation, so the best they can do is establish pressure elsewhere. It's not going to help, this blue side at all, but I guess it's not going to hurt.
Most certainly, and say goodbye to Leona. She's all the way back home. Sway goes farther in. Nice little triple ult, and say goodbye as well. And with that, tower goes down, inhib goes down. And White Lotus appears to finally be going a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I mean, they now have 3 inhibitors down. That's 3 waves worth of super minions. Just ferry them in. Catch the minions at the source right now, and 1 more kill just ends the game. Here's mid supers coming in. No more Barons, a little tricky, but again, this is just over.
And that is an engage coming out from John onto the Kayle, and say goodbye to the Kayle as well. She just got absolutely eviscerated. Bacon Shake also going down. Seraphine goes down through the hands of the Leona, and Sloth get very low executed by the Smolder. That is a triple kill from Smolder, and that is a flash in. Say goodbye as well. And that Fells game at 29 minutes with a 5-19 going to the hands of White Lotus.
And it just was not a competitive series here today. We had the suspicion that these are 2 different teams at 2 different levels, 2 different stories, and I think that suspicion was absolutely right. White Lotus looked, despite the fact that they have 2 members of their substitute roster playing today, and that, of course, is Daz in that mid lane position and Zerathorn in that jungle. It doesn't matter. White Lotus just looked like the better team. Full stop, no quote, no comments. Nothing else. It's just White Lotus was a better team today, and they won.
Is there anything you would like to give to TFF 5G outside of just don't play stupid?
I mean, it really looked like a pretty fundamental misunderstanding of how to play 5s. I think they got way too cute with their drafts. I mean, just pick stuff. I always love to set teams up around the Zelo with just simple comps where you have 1 late game scaler, you have some engage. Game 1, they just didn't have any engagement. Game 2, they didn't have an earlier mid game. It's tough. White Lotus is definitely one of the more organized teams here, so I won't say that TFF can't have better results versus other teams, but this is showing you that sometimes it's not just the players. And I'll be honest, I don't think there was a huge player gap here today. I think that White Lotus across the board performed better. I think it was just a massive macro gap. It was a big macro gap. It was a big compositional gap. I think top lane was pretty convincing Freshburger over Stabler Orca, but besides that, like you didn't get smashed in the laning phase. You just could not transition out of the early game. So hopefully it's going to give TFF some areas where they can work on and improve, but fundamentals win games, and White Lotus had the fundamentals.
Yes, indeed. They absolutely demolished the mid to late game, even though in that second game, they technically didn't have the late game scaling champions that the TFF 5G had, but there was just too many of them and not enough to carry you through that early game, which sent them down that slip and slide and ended it all for them. Hopefully, they can most certainly learn from this and maybe do some work with some of the teams that are a little bit lower down in the bracket and hopefully make some improvements and go from there. But outside of that, it wasn't a fantastic game. It was most certainly a blowout, but what can you do?
Yeah, I mean I don't think we really have anything else here. I think that's the story. Curious to see how both these teams do in the future. I mean, looking at the rest of the season for TFF, it gets a little bit easier next week going up against last place team UHE, but then right back to the top of the table with Panthers and HS to round out the season. Whereas I think White Lotus have a little bit of a more streamlined path. They've got Panthers and HS as well as a bye. I'd say they may already be a lock for playoffs now with 3 wins. I'd say a fourth win would really solidify it. And obviously, you are going to be factoring all the Division A teams into the playoffs. This has been a Division B matchup. So you got 7 more teams on the other side of the bracket, which you're just going to want to end the season as high of a rank as you can so that you play a worse team out of the other division. So still plenty to play for here for White Lotus. But yeah, I think right now it's all about them just getting geared up for this postseason.
I can most certainly agree with you. And with that, we will be calling it a night. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the games today. Stick around. We will have another one, I believe, tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure what time, but for today, 4 p.m. EST for tomorrow, actually. So hop in there tomorrow, and you all have a good rest of your night. I'm horrible at outros. Good night, everyone.